time's moving on. Can he make it all the way now? And yeah, we're going to get to see that.
Well, he is very active. I think a couple days ago, he won 2 online tournaments in the same day, and he had another great run at a different event. One that was the biggest one. That was a Vardy. He didn't win that one. He's just incredibly active. He's a grinder like he's been for a long time, and he's got high hopes coming into this DreamHack Masters Atlanta, Europe. And let's see if he can get off to a good start. In the bottom left side, representing Blazer Esports, this is the Polish Protoss Krystianer.
And spawning over in the top right, currently teamless, it is Ukraine's Hellraiser. Rocking the little mustache and goatee look as well. I like it on him.
Oh, he looks feisty. Already have different openings here in our PvP. Krystianer is going for the what I like to call the standard now, pylon on the low ground, gateway on the low ground. On any map where there is a ramp going into your natural, this has really become the standard, for better or worse. Some people love it. I personally, I don't hate it that much, but I do hate that we have ramps in 5 out of the 7 maps at the moment. And that means that a lot of the PvPs you play, they play out in a very similar manner. And I know I'm not the only one who feels like this. Krystianer did not manage to block the Nexus there, excuse me, a Hellraiser. So this is Nexus before Cybercore versus Double Gate on the high ground. Well, Ben, I played a lot of these games myself. I think at this point, if you're Hellraiser, you kind of need to all in, man. Because if you don't all in, you just accept the fact that you're 10 workers behind in a PvP, and being 10 workers behind in a PvP against somebody that's close to your skill level, whether it's a little bit better or a little bit worse, doesn't really matter. That's just disastrous. So Hellraiser is going to build a pylon immediately in the face of Krystianer, and we're going to get a short, sweet, but very action-packed PvP here.
Yeah, I was just thinking to myself, like, how often do you actually get to throw down the Nexus because the probe isn't there? And I was thinking, like, is this potentially Hellraiser kind of forcing out this with a kind of, you know, he had a response already in mind? Because so far he's been very decisive about it, but I'm not sure how it's going to go, you know? Like, he's on a clock, as you said.
Yeah, in my eyes, it's going to go very bad, unless the Adepts can sneak in, right? If the Adepts can hide the fact that they are 2 Adepts, and Krystianer doesn't actually see these units moving out. So at this point, Krystianer is probably expecting Stalkers to show up. And if Hellraiser is able to shade those 2 Adepts deep into the main base, immediately create a lot of chaos, kill like 10 probes, then it's obviously fine. If he's going to reveal them here, this is just a bit of a disaster, man. Yeah, well, a bit of a disaster. I think it is a straight-up disaster.
Yeah, it looks like he kind of prioed trying to get a pylon down, which he kind of just does. And from both of them, it's very strange. As Krystianer does get the wall off, and this shade does end up there. But wow, yeah, super disaster, Kevin. Look at this. He's super supply blocked as well. Can't even produce probes right now.
Nope. He goes for a Nexus, though. That's a good way, and he loses an Adept, so that frees up a bit of supply. Now, technically, Stargate against Robo, that's something you get excited over. Good job here by Hellraiser, making sure that that probe is not going to see the Stargate. I don't think it did. If Krystianer does absolutely nothing other than make an Observer or 2 and make a couple of probes, maybe this will still become a playable game for Hellraiser. If you have the Oracles, I assume it's going to be Oracles, can find a lot of success. But the worker counts don't lie. It's a 6 worker disadvantage at this point for Ukrainian Protoss, and that Nexus is only halfway done.
I like how Krystianer's handling all this, by the way. Like, gets out the Observer, and he's like, all right, what's next? That Scout in the natural as well as his opponent, really nice. Even just getting a shield battery in his main, because it's like, all right, what can I lose to right now? I'm ahead. Might as well spend the money and just put down a shield battery so an Oracle can't, you know, just get him back into the game. So yeah, Krystianer feels like he's playing this very, very solid, very meticulous. He knew exactly how to handle being allowed to get up that Nexus, which so far is just showing very, very mature play.
I would have really loved to see Hellraiser not reveal the Adepts near his proxy gateway. And that obviously means that gateway is going to take a lot of damage, no pylon is going to go up for a while, but at that point, the Adepts are not going to win that fight anyway against 2 Stalkers and a Zealot. So you may as well send them towards that 6 o'clock position and hope you can shade into the main base. And if that would have happened, it would have all been okay. Even if you have a much later Nexus, you can then get a great scout off. You kill at least, I think, 7 or 8 probes if the units are that far out of position. I think we had to try to get lucky there with the Adepts. And since we didn't, it's going to be a very, very difficult game for Hellraiser. Now, Oracles are obviously nice to have out on the map, and technically Krystianer, until he has Blink, has no real way to kill these oracles, but I just don't really find them or see them find any damage.
No, I mean, Data Sea is a nice map where you can get behind both the bases and continuously pose a threat, but Hellraiser's just going to be playing Krystianer's game from this point on. And, you know, the third base, it's a little bit behind. The probe count, it's a little bit behind. These oracles, they've got a window where it's like, all right, I can deal damage and I can make sure you have to stay at home while I do my thing, which is a strength. But yeah, Krystianer is definitely not going to be feeling like he has to do something, because he doesn't. He just has to make sure he doesn't take too much damage and doesn't get caught off guard.
No, he's enjoying life. He knows that he's got a quicker third base. He knows that he's got blink way, way, way before his opponent. There's actually a world where maybe Hellraiser does that old school thing, you know, where they don't go blink and they actually go for charge. Immediately. And he just goes for a charge immortal Archon attack. Wouldn't personally hate it. I actually think that would give him a better shot at winning this game. But by the looks of it, that's not going to be the case since he just made 4 Stalkers. Oh my god, we have a forward blink. Feels unnecessary. Can battery overcharge save that immortal? It cannot. So Krystianer gets away with it. We'll end up losing a few units here. But, well, I mean, that's Krystianer for you. Feisty.
Wild. Like, absolutely wild. But it pays off, right? Like, Hellraiser didn't expect that. Look at the probe count as well. Hellraiser's actually taking this so serious that he wasn't producing that many probes, and Krystianer, his little lead that he had, just keeps on mounting. And these oracles, they have joined up now. That does allow them to one-shot probes, but Krystianer, he's just actually playing really damn well.
And he's not even falling into the Roddy F2 trap, mate. He's keeping a couple of stalkers at home to make sure that not all of his units are out and about on the map, and that the oracles will find a lot of success still killing workers. Krystianer has charge on the way now at the same time as Hellraiser is starting his own blink. The only thing that Hellraiser can really do here is just defend properly, move that slow army around. Krystianer knows that that's a much slower army, so he's like, all right, I'm just going to go ahead and blink past everything, going to run into the main base, and don't forget that you can always blink back to the low ground as well. The oracles are finding a little bit of success, so this is nice. This is indeed very wild gameplay by Krystianer. But now you can blink to the low ground, and there is nothing there to save the probes on the low ground. Hellraiser's army is slow and immobile. Krystianer's army is just blinking all over the place. A recall, okay, that's cute.
These adepts as well. He's playing really good, man. I'm very impressed. And again, this is just ring around the rosy, Kev, at this point. And Hellraiser knows it. Krystianer was just having his wicked way with him.
That is the power of mobility right there. I love that. Even when he's so easy, like, okay, you do have batteries, you have immortals, you have stalkers, but I know for a fact that you can't possibly have blink. Because if you made oracles and you had a later expand and you made a robo, you can never have blink here. So he just went for it, blinked into the natural, and he's like, I can always blink deeper into the main. And by the time that he caught up with his slower units, I'm going to blink into the low ground again. It was well done, but this game obviously is basically over after the failed 3-gate. You truly need to pull off a miracle if you're Hellraiser in that spot to turn games like this around. And this is why PvP became a lot more brutal than it was 2 years ago, where everybody had different openings, right? It's like, okay, we all make 4 gateway units, and then we make a Stargate or a Twilight or a Robo, or we expand, and then we go from one of those 3. But in this day and age, the early game is so extreme with the 1-gate fast expands, where the advantages you get out of that build, if you don't get punished and you have it and your opponent doesn't, are so massive that comebacks just don't really happen unless something truly insane happens in the game. Nothing insane happened here.
No, and I'm totally with you about those adepts. Like, the fact they came up to the high ground to try and battle a stalker and a zealot while trying to keep the probe alive, it's like, that's not what adepts are good at that stage, battling a zealot and a stalker. You can kill the zealot, sure, but they need to deal the eco damage, and you're totally right that that should have been his goal. So the one thing, maybe sneaking on by, maybe then getting in, but Krystianer, once they were trying to sneak by, they revealed themselves, and it's like, hey man, you know, it was the end of him, really. And we are going to give Krystianer just a moment here, just, you know, after a feisty first game like that. And it's going to be Cosmic Sapphire the next game. Now, this isn't a map with a high ground. It's one of those only few, but it is a very, very large map with a long rush distance, and Krystianer is now back. So what do you think we'll see on this one?
One of the two, indeed. I mean, Krystianer may just do it again, because maybe he feels that Hellraiser's response against his stuff is not great. And if Hellraiser is not comfortable playing one gate fast expand, like, this is really powerful. There's a reason why MaxPax's PvP win record has been absolutely mental over the last 12 months, and it's just because it is so damn good. It's not easy to become as good in it as MaxPax is, because there are so many variables that you have to worry about, so many all-ins, the scouting can be tricky. But once you nail it, you can actually do it on every map, even if there is no ramp. Makes it a bit harder, but you can still get away with it. And if I was Krystianer after that first game, I'd probably do it again. And I know he's capable of doing it on maps like this as well. But to go back to those adepts one more time, it really was his only shot, because Krystianer had a scouting probe on the other side of the map, but he was hiding that in the natural. So you would expect stalkers there, because normally tree gate starts off with stalkers in your face. So the fact that he got 2 adepts out, Krystianer didn't know about it. That really was, I think, the only hope for the early game there after the proxy was found and scouted so early. But moving into Cosmic Sapphire, let's see if game 2 is going to be playing out in a different way. This is the Polish Brothers representing Blazer Esports. It's Krystianer.
And we do already see it going with a different fashion here, and spawning over in the top left as the blue Protoss, it is Hellraiser. 1 gate apiece on the high ground thus far, opting for 2 gases apiece as well. Most likely going to be the far more standard play, at least standard from a few years ago, you know, where you see this pretty much every game, and seeing those 4 units at the start duke it out, when to expand, when to not, when to tech, do your proxy. But yeah, very, very different from Krystianer this game.
Yep, but it is funny how they still both respect the possibility of the 1 gate fast expand, because that's why the probe is out so early, right? In the old days, we didn't scout this early, because what at this point are you really scouting for? Isn't everything supposed to be normal? But now you need to get that probe to the other side of the map. So in case you do see pylon and gateway on the low ground, you can block the nexus or at least delay it and have the confirmation that that is happening, and adjust your game plan if you had a different plan for a 2 gate versus 1 gate, etc. So they are showing it the respect that it could be happening. It's just not happening. But this doesn't mean that they are both going to make 4 units and expand. You can still be very greedy. Sometimes they just skip the first 2 units and they still expand immediately, and that can also give you a very big advantage. It really just has changed a lot ever since the mothership core got removed and shield batteries got introduced. And at first we were like, oh, the batteries, are they really that great? And yeah, then it took us a couple hundred PvPs to realize that yes, they are that great, and you can get away with a lot of greed because of the battery, more than you were able to do with mothership core back then.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I almost forgot Mothership Core was a unit, but that also rained havoc on a bunch of different matchups entirely. But yeah, both these players, it does look like they're gearing up to make it a 2-base kind of situation. We do have a single adept out on the map to maybe get some scouting. If it gets into a base, it can obviously deal damage, but Stargate is the weapon of choice here for Hellraiser. In my experience with Hellraiser, he was so extreme about what he liked and when he liked it. Like, I remember he went through a very much a disruptor phase, very much went through a cannon phase, and also very much a Stargate phase. And here, that adept tried to get on in, but Hellraiser was very quick to get up that shield battery block.
You know, you mentioned cannons, mate, and I believe he's in Group B, but King Cobra still cannon rushes at a very high level. Actually gets W's on the board as well against some of the best players in Europe. And his PvPs, I've seen 3 of them in the last 2 weeks. They've been so ridiculous. He is completely okay being down, let's say, 20 probes and 2 bases, as long as he can just sit there with cannons, batteries, and tack into Immortal Phoenix, a very quick mothership, and then carry us. The PvPs that I've watched are insane, where he often trades like 25k more efficiently than his opponent, and even though he's been outmined for 20 minutes straight, he just wins because he's actually very good in carrier mothership battles. You're gonna have some fun watching King Cobra in this tournament, because I think there are 5 Protoss players in this group.
I mean, just the sound of it, I think to myself, I remember when I used to play against Goody, right? And I'd be like, I'm mining so much more and everything's going really well, but then I'd lose and I'd be like, How? And at one point, I was just like, screw it, I'm going to start playing mech against him. And then it started working out. So I wonder when Protosses will switch on, when it's like, all right, if he's going to do it, I'm going to do it. And then you're just so much richer doing it kind of thing. But you have excited me about King Cobra, because I'll never forget when he went through that tournament bracket. It was like one of the weeklies, and he beat Kleb and he beat Mirroring Lord and stuff. Like, it was obviously a long time ago. But yeah, he was definitely a nightmare for a few guys.
Yeah, Void Rays and shield batteries back then. Now, of course, the offensive shield battery has been nerfed. They don't start with all the energy anymore, so those builds are a lot weaker also because the Void Ray is weaker. But it's just fun, man. It's going to be very cool to see him in this tournament. Talking about this PvP, though, Hellraiser has 2 oracles, and he's actually just going to drop stasis traps early on to prevent Krystianer from going up to 3 bases very early. As Krystianer was already thinking about it, they're sending out 1 probe. Krystianer, meanwhile, he's just making gateway units. He went for the Robo, which is very safe. It's actually the least common of all the openings. Kind of questionable Oracle movement that adds a lot of damage. He blocks the Nexus, right? I think he blocks the Nexus.
I think he does, yeah. I think he was trying to be careful about not blocking the Nexus as well. So definitely paid off for Hellraiser. Hellraiser a little bit supply blocked here. The pylon is on the way, and he's shifting into Immortal production. He went for his Forge quite a bit earlier, and yeah, very, very different PvP styles from both of them here.
Yeah, Hellraiser is playing almost overly safe here. Excuse me, Krystianer. This is not the Krystianer that I'm used to. Opening up with the Robo is something you normally only do if you are worried about your opponent doing something insane, like very quick DTs, or you expect them to not actually drop any attack and just attack with basic gateway units. It should be Twilight or Stargate. Robo is different. Maybe Krystianer just feels that he is in better shape, that he is the one who plays a lot more at the moment, that even if he puts himself in a bit of a deficit, and normally Robo against Target absolutely is a deficit, that he's still going to be okay in this game.
Yeah, and so far, like, probe count for both of them. In fact, Hellraiser is the one that's etching a little bit of a lead there. Blink does start up for him, a little bit ahead. It is nice to have those 2 sentries out on the field nice and early for Krystianer, because even though he doesn't have the air control, he can continuously scout. And seeing that army from Hellraiser and seeing the shield battery positions as well, like, he's ready to take a fight, but obviously on his side of the map.
Yeah, that's a very random battery, but it's kind of cool. Maybe Krystianer has done some weird things in some of the games that they've played recently that we are not aware of. Blink is done for Krystianer, so he will still be the one with slightly quicker Blink, despite the fact that he had that quick Robo too. But I don't think he's going to be able to achieve a whole lot here. We saw a couple of crazy Blinks. Is he going to do that again? That would honestly not work out. Because this time around, he's nowhere near as far ahead. But this is a distraction maneuver for these Adepts. These 2 Adepts are going to try to shade into the 3rd base, and Stasis Trap is there. I don't know if he's aware of it or not. Gets a single probe. Good defense, though, by Hellraiser. This is a much more competitive game than the first one.
Yeah, and Krystianer's kind of sticking to his, I don't want to say his trick, but he obviously knows what he likes and knows what he's good at. He's like, okay, I attack with a bunch of Stalkers, then I send in 2 Adepts and see what I can get done. And this is all before Hellraiser is mobile. He has to be careful, though. That is one of the several stasis walls that Hellraiser planted around the map. And Hellraiser currently is behind in supply, but it's also because his tech, maybe his straight-up army, is a little bit more solid right now. But he has to be careful because Krystianer, he is moving out across the map here.
Yeah, but Krystianer does not have an army that can win a fight here, man. Not against these batteries, and I don't know if he's going to try to do something weird here against all these Immortals. As Hellraiser, his Blink is done too. He blinks forward immediately. I am surprised that Krystianer feels that he needs to be aggressive here. There are Zealots ready for a run-by on the left, but they get revealed, and charge is not even done yet. Maybe it's like fake aggression, and he's actually just probing up at home, but I really don't think there is much to gain here. Like, the army of Hellraiser is rock solid. He's got Blink, he's got +1, he's got a bunch of batteries, Stasis Traps, and Immortals. This seems pretty unbreakable to me.
It is weird that upon all that scouting, oh wow, Adept Glaive starts up as well for Hellraiser here. That's an unusual choice, but yeah, you're totally right. Like, you got to see that there was shield batteries here, there, and everywhere. You got to see that there's 2 Oracles as well that have been back at home producing these stasises. There's one thing I wouldn't think of doing, it's kind of playing that game of attacking into it. But yeah, it's worked out very well for Hellraiser thus far.
Yep, Hellraiser is just defending. He does have obviously a much later fourth base, but he is gearing up for his own attack, maybe with +2 and resonating glaives. Glaive Adept can be very good against Zealots. If Krystianer knows that it's going to be Glaive Adept, what he needs to do is go a little bit less heavy on the Zealots, go more heavy on Archons and Stalkers, and then he should be fine, because the Immortals of Hellraiser are not going to be great, as we have a little bit of a scrap here, as a couple of extra Zealots show up on the right side. Forward blink by Krystianer, as this is where Zealots with charge can really shine, and Hellraiser definitely going a bit further away from those batteries than he probably should have. Loses a couple of these key units. No cancel on the Nexus either. 400 minerals down the drain. Man, it all looked so promising for Hellraiser if he would have just taken it a little bit slower there.
That felt like Hellraiser was not expecting the double down from Krystianer. Like, Krystianer, even though he took a fourth base, he just made more of what he had. And that was a ton of Zealots. And now Hellraiser's in a really bad spot, man. That's just one shield battery there. There are a lot of Adepts which definitely can deal with this Zealot number, as long as he's fighting in good chokes and good positions. And maybe is this DTs in here in this Warp Prism? That's a big, like, they've got a big job to get done.
Yep, there is one cannon. That's not going to be enough. Zero observers, by the way. Oh my goodness. 0 ops on the map for Krystianer. So that means at the moment this goes down, now you can go for the robo. Oh my goodness, if he would know, if he goes for this robo, if he goes for the pylons, Krystianer does have another robo apparently in the natural, and that one is going to produce an observer. But pretty big moment, as we have another big main fight happening as well on the other side of the map. Battery overcharge would be very wise to use here. Hellraiser, I know you've used it before, but it should always be ready. Isn't it always ready? Seems like it's not ready this time around. The Immortal falls. Stasis traps keeping him somewhat safe. DT still finding a lot of damage on the other side of the map. Krystianer is taking a bit of a beating against these DTs, man.
He really is. I mean, that count just keeps on growing. The base is completely demolished here, this fourth base, but it is just that. It's a fourth base, basically. And yeah, Krystianer, the supply has been very much equaled up. These DTs, they had a huge job, Kev, but hey, they've lived up to they've lived up to it.
Yeah, I think 27 probes qualifies as mission well done. And he's not done yet. Another Dark Templar slicing up some probes into one base, but there is no cannon or no observer. Krystianer probably felt that he had this game in the bag after that great fight at 9 o'clock where he got the kill on the Nexus as well. And suddenly he realized that he's really going to have to work for it. And now Hellraiser is the one with the Robo Bay. He starts producing a couple of Disruptors. And at this point, Krystianer does not have a great answer against them other than avoid the balls and maybe blink forward, gun one down when it's overly exposed. But this game actually looks really good for Hellraiser now, despite the fact that he's down 26 army supply. I like his position a lot, as long as he can just defend, don't do anything silly, don't overexpose those important units. I think he's going to be fine. Did not see this move out though, probably did not expect Krystianer to go for it again. Battery overcharge is going to be used immediately, but that's a lot of DPS. And this Nexus falls too. That's unfortunate, because if Hellraiser is in position, that never happens.
It doesn't. And here, the first disrupt shot's pretty damn good, taking out a good chunk of those Zealots. And Hellraiser's the one that's ahead in supply. He's taking a couple of Nexus at the same time here, obviously reproducing that third and taking a fourth base. These DTs not getting the damage that they're looking for, though, and another 2 running in there. Will they? Oh, nice. Around by... What? Wow. I don't think he needed